So I am sitting here today with a woman who is unapologetically dope, smart, and beautiful. My Sarah, my classmate, Dr. Nicki Washington.
Thank you.
Well, thank you for writing this book. Hold the book up and show everybody what you got. Now, Unapologetically Dope. Tell us what this book is about and why you decided to write it.
So, Unapologetically Dope is sort of my love letter to Black women and girls in tech. It is what you need to know about the field and being successful in the field that no one is going to teach you in a class or textbooks. So if we had to think about Black girls and women and how they become successful in the field, it has nothing to do with the books. If you introduce a student to a topic, they can learn it just like anybody else. But what's not told are those intangibles. For example, being able to know who are your allies versus your adversaries at work, being able to play chess when everyone else is playing checkers, making sure that you have a tribe of supporters and knowing what kind of people need to be in your tribe specifically. I talk about 5 different types of women that you have to have. One should be the plug, who has the access and can connect you to everybody. One should be the motivator, who's pushing you to do and be better, like friendly competition. Somebody should be the straight shooter, who's not going to let you feel sorry for yourself and wallow in pity. And then you need a cheerleader, and then you need a sage, and that person is usually wiser than you, has been through it, and can tell you how to handle certain situations that you may not be the most prepared for. It even goes down to the point of taking care of your mental, physical, and emotional health, because a lot of times we don't talk about that in the Black community, especially for Black women. And the myth of the strong Black woman is even more so a fact in tech, when you are one of the only ones a lot of times. Being able to remember to lift while you're climbing, so there's always others coming behind you. And more importantly, remembering that even though this is a field where there aren't enough of us, there's enough room for everybody at the table to eat. So you don't have to dim somebody else's light in order to make yours shine a little bit brighter. And working together will help you get a little bit further, a lot further, not just a little bit further, a lot further than it will trying to be the only one and that unicorn, right? We're all unicorns in our own right, and we need to be able to work together to make sure that we collectively become this unapologetically dope tribe of unstoppable Black women and girls that are taking over in a field that is way too diversity starved right now.
Now, when you talk about the different kind of women that you need in your tribe, how would you define yourself?
I think it depends on who you ask. For a lot of folks, though, probably a straight shooter, right? That's that person that's pretty much unfiltered. It's gonna say it, not really concerned with how you take it. You can be mad at me right now, but you'll love me for it later. Depending on age ranges, it could be a plug for some, motivators for some of my peers. I have other Black women, PhDs in computer science even, who are about the same age as me. Dr. Jamaica Burge, Dr. Brandy Marshall, Dr. Centrika Eaton, we're all probably about the same age, whatever age that is. I just called myself 25. And we all started our careers around the same time, but it's good to have those people who are doing similar things in the tech diversity space as well, so that we can lean on each other and bounce ideas off of each other. And then for some students, probably a sage, because I still get emails a lot of times from students wanting recommendations, advice on certain things and how to handle certain situations. But overall, I don't think anybody would disagree that I'm pretty much the straight shooter.
Yeah, I agree. Now, in undergrad, you were an athlete. Yep. You did a lot of things. How did you get into tech? What put you into this industry?
That's a good question. My mom was a programmer at IBM. She spent her entire 30-year career there. So I was involved in computer science from a very early age. We always had computers in our house. Every new computer, my mother let me assemble it, download the software, install it, and tinker around on it. So I started programming around 8th grade, and that continued through 9th grade, all through high school. I also had a lot of individuals in my village who were Black engineers. So growing up in Durham, North Carolina, my mom, my godfather, and several of her friends were all Black engineers and computer scientists at IBM, at Glaxo, you name it. Some were math teachers, some were college professors, attorneys, medical doctors, and they were all parents of my friends growing up. So we were all the same age, and we had this unique tribe of people who were holding us accountable indirectly, but also showing us what we could be through what they were. So I think that inspired me a lot. Originally, I didn't want to major in computer science. So I came to Smith assuming that I would major in marketing. And I was going to minor in computer science just to have something to do on the side. But in my first programming course, Dr. Naguib Atiyah, who is Dr. Magni Atiyah's older brother, he was my programming teacher at the time, and he convinced me to change my major. And he told me in '96 that computer science is going to give you way more opportunities than marketing would. And if I were you, I'd change my major because you naturally have a talent for this. And it was probably one of the best decisions I made in my life. So from there, everything else just kind of opened up. For me, I tell people it's always about preparation meeting opportunity, and that defined my luck, where I was always prepared for any opportunity that presented itself. So for a lot of people, it seemed like it was just fortune or luck, but for me, it was, no, I'm ready. I'm built for this. I just didn't know what there was out there. So when it was presented to me, it was, oh, okay, well, I'll try this instead. Because every idea I had for myself was so small that if I stuck to that plan, I wouldn't be anywhere near where I was today.
So do you think that kind of motivation and everything that you had growing up, throughout your career and everything, is that why you wanted to put this book together for other people who may not have that?
Absolutely. I recognized long ago that my situation was an exception and not the rule. I realized that probably in my freshman, sophomore year at Smith, but I didn't appreciate it until I got to graduate school. And at that time, I was still doing some work volunteering, for example, tutoring at St. Aug and things like that. But once I got to Howard, I really realized as a faculty member that there's a ton of students who have never seen Black faculty in computer science or Black teachers at all growing up in K-12. Getting to Howard in 2006, being the first Black woman that served on the faculty in the computer science department was crazy to me. But I understood that I could directly influence students just by my presence. Seeing someone that looked like you says a lot. Even at Johnson C. Smith, my entire 4-year career, I never had a Black faculty member in the computer science department. We never had a Black faculty member. So all of the most influential faculty didn't look like me. But I didn't need that because I had an entire village growing up. So I had already seen that. But I knew that there were a ton of students because, of course, at Howard, you've got students from all over the world coming who needed to see someone like them. And that was the first time that I started to think about there's representation and issues around representation that are important. Over my last 14 years in higher ed, I've done a lot of speaking engagements and workshops, primarily around the need for more representation in computer science. But it wasn't until this past summer where I was facilitating a panel for an inaugural Black Computer Fellows program. And my girlfriend I talked about before, Dr. Jamika Burge, she's one of the creators of this Black Compute Her program, which is designed for Black women and girls in computing. That panel was a convening of about 20 women in early career professionals or graduate school in computer science. And some of the conversations that were had centered around issues that I thought were a little bit better resolved than they are at the point right now. They were things that I was experiencing from 96 to 2005. And they were things that I experienced, but I had a reference point of how to address it. And it didn't seem like some of these women had that same thing. And so instinctively I said, this is the book that I need to write. I was actually supposed to write a textbook over last summer and start on that. But sitting in that panel, I said, this is the book that needs to happen. This is the time. because everybody didn't get what you got, Nicki. And you need to be able to say to women and girls that if I can't talk to you individually, at least you can have a copy of the book and you can hear my words through the writing.
So how can women and girls, not just in tech, because from what I've seen of the book, this is something that, all Black women need to know. How can you get a copy of the book?
You can get a copy of the book on Amazon, on Barnes & Noble, and also on my website, www.nickiwashington.com. That's Nicki Washington.com. And like I said, it's available for the masses. While it tailors and speaks to Black women and girls in tech, it really is a book for any Black woman in any field. There's no discussion about anything tech focused in this book, nothing about computing fundamentals, so you don't have to worry about looking at code or algorithms or any of that. This is really about how do you handle all of those things that we all go through, but we all talk about during happy hour or at summer retreats or things like that that aren't handled on site or on campus. So it's definitely something that everybody can find value in. I wrote it for Black women and girls in tech because that's just a niche right now that no one has spoken to, which surprising to me that was the case.
So if you had your way, what would you like to see, or how would you like to see the tech field change?
So a couple of things. The first thing I would like to see is that actual Black men and women who have tech degrees have seats at the table when decisions are made around diversity and inclusion. That has been a serious pet peeve of mine as well as my peers who are in STEM for the last 15 years, especially now in this recent push. So, you look at what happened with Facebook this week and the Black employee releasing what we've all known, which is basically that these tech companies aren't really that concerned about diversity and inclusion, right? It's a buzzword. It's a way to check off a box that we're doing the right thing, but they're not really doing much. I've always said, if you really want to know how to reach students of color, you need to get the Black students, the Latinx students, who are doing it, who live, eat, and breathe it every single day. You need to get those graduates in that field who had the experience from K through 16 and graduate school, so they can have input because they know what worked for them and what would work for everyone else. Because the odds are that my experience in K through 12 as well as college and graduate school is the same as another Black student who's coming from Tupelo, Mississippi or Detroit, Michigan. The only difference is that I just had exposure to Black engineers growing up and they didn't. The same implicit bias we experienced, the same marginalization, the same microaggressions, those don't change. What changed was that I had a little bit more experience on how to handle it from others who taught me. And the same goes for Hispanic men and women. We talk a lot about, increasing these numbers, but the numbers aren't changing. So we've got a lot of diversity and inclusion efforts, but nothing is changing. The same number of students are graduating just about. Black women comprise only about 1% of all computing graduates every year. Mm-hmm. So if we're only 1% of the graduates, what are you doing to make sure that in K through 12 and college and university efforts that more students are being supported and pushed? I talked a lot a couple of years ago on a blog about how there are all of these $1 million donations to organizations that help with diversity and inclusion. That's great, right? I think a couple of years ago, it was either Google or Facebook that donated $15 million to code.org, which is great. I've done work with code.org. I think it's a great organization. But why not take even 10 or 15 more and donate $1 million each to 15 computer science departments at HBCUs? Think of what you can do and the impact that can happen immediately when you invest in the universities that are producing these graduates, or the Hispanic serving institutions that are producing these graduates, or the tribal colleges and universities who are producing these graduates, because those are the direct sources of all of this talent that you're looking for, but you're not willing to invest heavily in them, nor are you willing to invest in people who know best how to reach them. So that's probably what I'd like to see. And I'd like to see, I definitely like to see more Shuris. I equate it to that, right? Everybody loved Black Panther. I love that. I love that all of these Black girls are now excited about engineering and computer science. I want to see every little girl from now through the next 5 years dressed up for Shuri as Halloween, and investing in the comics, and participating in events like Black Girls Code, and any other the camps for girls. In Tech is a great one here by Kalia Braswell, that gets a lot of traction for Black women and girls in the Charlotte area. I want to see every young woman of color, Black, brown, participating in something and getting that experience and being confident enough to know that even if I walk into a room and I'm the only one who looks like me, that I'm okay. Like, I don't need that, because I know outside of that, I have a tribe that's supporting me. So while I'm in the fire and in the lion's den, I'm good. Because when I go home, I get the support and the love that I need to go back another day. Because that's basically what I do. You know, I'm not always or I am a lot of times the only one. I am a lot of times the only woman, and I may be the only Black woman. I'm very fortunate that here at Winthrop, I was the second Black woman in the department, but that's usually unheard of. There's a lot of departments still, even at HBCUs, that still don't have Black faculty.
Wow. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for being unapologetically dope, JCSU alum.
Thank you.
A little biased.
Absolutely.
But you know what you're doing. The message that you're sending is something that, you know, Black women, Black girls especially need, because we're always pushed into one direction, to doing something that is safe, and you know, we see other Black people doing. Nothing against any other career, because I mean, I know nothing about coding or anything like that, so don't get twisted. But just seeing you pushing girls who look like us to do this in something that's lucrative, where they're going to make a difference, because this is a digital age. We can't be analog girls no more.
Right.
So for you pushing these girls, thank you.
I appreciate it. Thank you. And I think that's the one other thing I'd like to see is more mainstream celebrities and entertainers backing Black women and girls in STEM. And not even just Black women and girls. I'm going to say, you know, Latino women and girls, because they're just as underrepresented as us. But I speak my truth. I'm going to let someone else from the Latina community speak for them. But at the same time, we need to see some of these people that we see every single day on TV talking about computer science and computing and getting into tech. There's a video out for Hour of Code, code.org, produced a couple of years ago, that has Chris Bosch talking about how he took programming courses in high school, which I think is great, you know, because a lot of kids, not every kid watches NBA, so a lot of kids know of Chris Bosch. Chance the Rapper just partnered his nonprofit in Chicago, with Chicago Public Schools to make sure that students have computer science courses. These are the types of things that every artist needs to be doing, because computer science is touching what they do. You look at producers like Jay Dilla, Kanye, any other major producers out there right now, they're using computer science in some way. So there's so many avenues for this field to make an impact, that you don't have to just sit behind a desk programming all day. You can be the next Drake, or the next Dilla, or, you know, the next Chance the Rapper, or you could be the next Bill Gates. How about that? Or the next Google guys. Whatever you want to do. There are jobs and industries that we haven't even thought of right now that will be available 5 to 10 years from now. 5 to 10 years ago, nobody knew what Facebook was, and here we are, or Instagram, or Snapchat. So the creativity is there, and it's just as lucrative, if not more, than being a mainstream artist or actor or professional athlete.
Thank you.
Thank you.